And again, through no fault of their own, because of their medical condition, they'll have to sit out those last 14 days. So if you ask for my recommendation, and I don't know if you did, but if you do, I'm going to, and I'm willing to ask our students and our staff to make those sacrifices for 14 more days for our most needy and medically fragile students. And I'm confident they can do that.
So I will tell you that I am completely torn. Like Cherry said, the emails are very, very, very 50-50. It's easy to think you're on a majority side when you haven't heard the other side. It's very mixed, and I empathize with both sides. I hate the masks. I want them gone. I understand the mental health that comes on both sides of this. We have students that are now terrified to live life without masks, and that breaks my heart. That is the world that COVID has created, and it's horrible, and I don't want to see that continue. What I'm really concerned about is, one, prolonged health issues if we keep wearing masks. Like, could that become a liability in the future? Something that has changed currently is the discussion around liability. That has changed. I don't think that the protocols, the recommendations, the guidelines have changed at all, so I'm not really sure why the timing is now, outside of vaccinated individuals are being told they don't have to wear a mask inside. So that's kind of the only open loophole that we're seeing, and everybody's kind of running right through it. My biggest concern is this. The thing that I was the most excited about was that in April, 2 weeks ago, when we removed protocol like mitigations, it was that if you are wearing a mask and you become a close contact, quarantine is optional. If we take masks off and you become a close contact, my understanding is that quarantine is no longer optional, and that means if next Wednesday someone is a close contact without wearing a mask, they're out the rest of the year. That's my biggest concern. I don't think we're going to see a big spike, but it doesn't matter how big a spike may or may not be. We had one positive test last week, and it hit 23 people in the high school as close contacts. That's 23 kids that may not be able to finish the year if they weren't wearing the mask. So I guess my question is, and I don't know if we have an answer, if someone is wearing a mask and is a close contact, is quarantine still optional? Do you know the answer to that, Sean?
Sure. So Waukesha County Health Department will say that they recommend that you quarantine. If so, students aren't masked and they are identified as a close contact, then again, the county health department recommendation would be that they quarantine. Correct.
So if parents walk into this with eyes wide open, knowing that if they send their student to school without a mask on, because I think we've heard very loudly that it should be a choice, and I don't necessarily disagree with that, but that choice may also put themselves in a position to have to go through a close contact quarantine. Do we see that as something that can be communicated well enough, quickly enough, that parents walk into this next Monday knowing that they're taking that risk? Do you feel comfortable with that?
But that's a recommendation, right, Sean? That's not a county.
It is the recommendation that we adopted on the 26th of April.
So to clarify, that's what they recommend. So right now they recommend masks, and we have a mask protocol that we require then. So you would need to clarify that tonight for us, because right now our quarantine procedures give parents the option. You're going to have to clarify that tonight so we can communicate that to parents if it still is an option.
That's the second item on the agenda, correct?
Okay, is that the second? Okay, I didn't know what the second item was, so that's a good time to talk about it, but I don't know if that's going to impact the way you vote on the first motion as far as what you make that second motion to be. But yes, to answer your question, Eric, I do think that it may incentivize people to wear masks if they can avoid quarantine. So seniors could avoid getting quarantined for graduation, juniors and seniors for prom, et cetera, et cetera.
But that would fall underneath the whole decision optional category. So
Right, well, we're gonna need
we'll
clarification
clarify
on
that, but that would have to be something that would be well communicated if that is something we choose to do. Any other discussion, comments?
Just, can I get that again? So this would go into effect, the mask, on Monday?
The motion, I believe that Jill said, said Monday,
my
May
recommendation,
24th, to allow for
So-
time for accommodations to be made.
So it's Wednesday. It, you know, just looking at some other districts across the county. So I think Muskego, for example, I think they made their decision Monday night, and then they gave the administration, I think, 3 or 4 days. Can we get?
They are going to
Is
Monday.
it too much to ask until June 8 or 9?
If we change it, I'm going to tomorrow. If it's not Monday, I'm gonna set a motion for tomorrow. So,
He was making a joke.
very well.
You can't tell because he's got a
I
But it was a
can't.
joke.
So we would appreciate as much time as we can get, because there are a lot of families that we need to have conversations with. There are some staff that we'll have to have conversations with. So I guess I'm asking for more time.
A shit show.
The motion was made.
So the motion is currently for May 24th. Is anyone wanting to amend?
The motion was made.
We have a motion and we have a second. Okay, well,
I
so
will-
we can go, we will vote on that motion. If it fails, then it can be amended. Or a new motion can be made.
Otherwise, I can amend it if you like.
No, the motion stands.
So we have a motion and a second. If no other discussion? Cherry, if you could roll call.
Erica?
Yes.
Mary?
Yes.
Joel?
Yeah.
No.
Andy?
Yes.
Art?
No.
Vito?
Yes.
Craig?
Yes.
Jill?
Yes.
Cherry? No.
So motion carries 6-3. Okay, moving on to MSD mitigation measures for 2020-2021. I would actually like to make the motion that if a close contact occurs when someone is unmasked, that they would have to go through the quarantine procedures as set forth by Waukesha County.
I second it.
I have a motion and a second. Any other questions or discussion?
We should just clarify that now. So when you have a close contact, we're talking about 2 students. So the student that was positive, and then the student that's identified as the close contact.
I would say the student that is identified as a close contact.
I have a question.
Yeah.
I have a question. I know at one point when we were dealing with mitigation and plexi, and we had seat assignments, so that allowed you to manage the contact tracing and who was close and close. Are we still doing that? Do we still have seating assignments in schools consistently from kindergarten up through 12th grade?
I would say yes, unless things have changed since we just changed the quarantine procedures a week ago.
So that's how you identify a close contact?
Right, because we have seating charts, yes.
Okay.
Yep.
Eric, are you going to leave it in there?
Same thing for buses.
Okay.
So to clarify with that, like there are assigned seating on buses, and just so everybody here knows, busing is a federal order, so masking being strongly recommended but not required does not apply to buses. Busing
That's
would
correct.
still have to be masked.
Yep, there's an executive order that requires masks on mass transportation if you're on a plane, to train a bus, and school buses fall under that. So the districts that have been changing the mask requirement to mask recommended or optional, they still have the mask requirement for their school buses.
Any other questions? Andy?
So then what you're saying is you're not going to give the parents the option as they have now as to whether or not they want to stay home or not?
Well, I suppose the option is as to whether or not they're weighing the risk of wearing a mask or not, right? Isn't that the point of giving parents the option? That's what we've heard in all of the emails, is I want the choice.
But I want that to be the option, is if somebody gets a phone call for their son or daughter and says, we believe that they may have come in contact with somebody, that they have the option as to whether or not they want to keep their son or daughter out. Because Waukesha County...
No way in hell. What the
The-
fuck is that?
All right. the Waukesha County guideline is a recommendation. It's not a county mandate. It's not anything pushed out by Governor Evers.
You created it.
I'm on.
Any other questions or
I'm on-
discussion?
I'm on board with Andy. I don't let people choose. I don't think we need to, my kids have been sent home a number of times because somebody said they were close to somebody. They have no symptoms, they have nothing, there's nothing wrong with them. It's one of the most frustrating things in the world, and we have the power to just say, I understand your recommendations, but we don't need to do that. If there's no rule saying, if there's no law saying we have to do this, why put them through it? The problem with having people missing school, being forced to miss school because they just happened to brush by somebody or they were within somebody, close to somebody for 15 minutes just seems ridiculous to me. I would much rather leave it up to the parents. Fine, you want to let them know that they were in close contact? Cool. Give them a heads up, and then just let them decide. It seems like it makes more sense. This is America. I think we should still have the choice to choose.
So, I would be cautious about
Yeah.
that.
What the
I will say that our legal counsel and definitely our liability insurance
Yeah.
company will not agree with those.
I had a big problem with that when I think I heard that from the principal when he told me that the lawyers and the insurance company was dictating how we were treating our kids. Now I'm pretty new to this. I don't know all the ins and outs, but when a lawyer and an insurance company is telling us what to do with our kids, I got a problem with that. And I really need to understand it a whole lot more before I'm going to be on board with somebody else, other than the people on this board and the community, telling us what we have to do. Now,
So-
I admit I don't have all the information.
So you pay me a lot of money to give you advice if you're going to get sued, and so that's my job. That's part of my job.
Sean,
And
could you
so
clarify something for me?
I asked the liability insurance company. You can see it, what they have right there for you. I also asked our legal counsel, and if you are going to go without masks, I would not go without that quarantine piece. If M3 or Bulow Vetter were here, I'm confident that's what they would encourage you to do.
To save their own butts, really. That's what it seems like. It seems like it's cover your butt.
Well,
And-
it seems like the close contact, whatever the number has been, it's been a very, 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 very tiny percentage of kids that actually had COVID from the close contact.
That's true.
All right, you know what? Hey. So I think that the numbers are going to tell you that the close contact has been a problem for the parents and the kids and probably everybody. And the numbers don't show that close contact is as big as a problem as maybe the lawyers and the insurance people want to say. That's my opinion.
So I think, so I understand that, and if hindsight, of course, is 2020, I wish that Waukesha County Health Department or other CDC, DHS, I wish they had said that you would not have to quarantine if you were wearing a mask. I think that makes a lot of sense.
But they didn't do that.
But they did not do that, and I think that hurt us. But again, that's water over the dam, and I'm just sharing my recommendation.
So this is my proposal to my very own motion, because I now have some new legal questions that I would like to ask. I am asking that we table this motion until Monday. Is anyone opposed to that? That we don't vote on this tonight, but we table it until Monday night?
Until Monday?
Until Monday at our full board meeting.
But you're starting it on Monday without masks,
Doesn't change the
and
change
so
the
things are
first
going to
motion.
happen.
Then would you like me to rescind it? Because I feel like now I need a couple more answers to some questions that were brought up.
Obviously, it's wrong.
So what kind of information do you need, Erica?
Yeah.
Well, so you had asked the close contact, if the COVID positive is maskless and the close contact is wearing a mask, does that change if the person that is positive is wearing a mask? In terms of the county guidelines that are in place for, the mitigation that we passed in April. Like how, those don't match right now. So I would like clarification from our legal counsel as to whether or not, what our liability looks like if the COVID positive student is unmasked. That is what I would like to dig into further, which I will do.
I think we're gonna get sued. If somebody wants to sue us, they're gonna sue us. That's what it boils down to.
Okay, so just leave it be.
Okay.
If somebody's, what the details, whether we parse out, were you wearing a mask, were they wearing a mask?
This'll be fun.
If somebody gets it and something happens and they're mad enough, they're gonna sue
This'll
us.
be fun.
It's gonna happen. We just, at a certain point, we just need to toughen up and take the risk, I think. I think it's just,
Yeah, except this is toughen up and take a risk with taxpayers' money. And
Everywhere
that's what our job is to protect the taxpayers' money,
I'm
which
working-
we've done a damn good job in the many years I've been on this board. We have done a great job of not having lawsuits, and we cannot stop listening to our legal advice.
I can appreciate that. I'm more concerned with the mental health of our kids than our bank.
Legal advice? What the hell is that? So am I. I have 4 kids. So am I.
Yeah, and that's
Okay.
fine. And your kids may be doing fine.
They're still legal.
You can disregard all the kids that are having problems with this because your kids are fine. That doesn't make it right. Some kids are going to do better than others. I have 2 kids. One's handling it one way, one's handling it another way.
Yeah.
So just because
What are
some
we-
kids are
what
doing
are
okay,
we
I've gotten a
discussing?
ton of emails from people saying the kids are okay, the kids are okay. I talked to a ton of kids that are not okay.
And I agree. And what are we discussing? We're talking about legal advice and whether it's a good thing to have or a bad thing to have.
If we had kids committing suicide because of this, what's our legal exposure there? If we're going to
Okay,
take it to
so-
its extreme,
Okay.
these are all legitimate things that are happening throughout the country.
And
Sherry, you were my second. I would like to table this until further legal feedback. Will you second that? Okay, so we will table this motion. Any other MASD mitigation measures that were intended under this action item?
What about the fact that if we have students coming in with seasonal allergies, we cannot be sending students home and saying, you can't come back to school until you have a negative COVID test because they have allergies.
boy, the whole. You guys,
All right, we hear you. Let us do our job, please.
This
you
is
guys did a great job.
Well, okay, that's a statement. You shared a statement. If there's no motion for that protocol for discussion, we'll move on to MHS graduation.
All right.
Is there a motion for that?
For mine? Or which one?
What you just spoke to?
Well,
Seasonal
that's
allergy.
my question, because that's what I originally filed as my second thing, not the one that Fear the Attorney, is why are we sending students home because they have the sniffles or they have a runny nose?
do we just need to make a motion on making, I mean, I understand yours is one way, but if we just make a motion that for it to, if somebody has close contact or if they have the sniffles, or how do you do that? Do you make a motion that,
Sean, would you please remind us,
Basic.
review kind of what that policy looks like? I'm pretty sure you gave us the form with the yellow
Yeah,
squares.
there's like 18 signs and symptoms, and if you fail one of them,
Yeah,
you're done.
there's-
So the documents in your folder. But I would be cautious about dipping into this quagmire. So a second grader gets sent down to the health room with symptoms. Yes, they might look like allergy symptoms. They might look like flu symptoms. We really need to rely on our health assistants and our district nurses. They are much more knowledgeable in medical conditions than I am and the school board, I highly recommend you stay out of this.
So according to this, if somebody has a headache and a runny nose, they are to stay home. Forever?
So I think
Is this
Until they
something that
seek
we're willing?
medical evaluation, so they can call their doctor, their nurse, at their pediatrician.
I have had a sore throat and a runny nose every day for the last 5 years. That means I can never come to school.
Oh, trust me, we've talked about this all summer. We
This-
know this has been very challenging, but I will also tell you that we've also had students come into the buildings with a couple allergy-like symptoms and ended up being positive, and parents sent them anyway. The problem is parents do have to keep sick kids home.
But
I think Jill wanted to talk.
No, I just wanted to make sure that the issue that came before Andy, and I know there have been a couple, do we not want to take a step back here and say that we need to trust our medical professionals in the building and let some common sense prevail? And, you know, you get a parent involved, and it's not a quick, rash judgment that it's so black and white, you look at a list and check off 2 of them, you're automatically out of here. I mean, isn't there some common sense that we're trying to deal with here and give some trust to our medical professionals?
I think
probably best if on Monday, if you really have questions or concerns about this, that we have Noelle Mengi and Trish Heller, our district nurses, come to talk to this policy or these procedures. They're much more knowledgeable in it than we are.
Really?
That's fine.
Really?
I'd like to ask them questions. Because Jill's point, you know,
I think that's a better route to go, like you said.
Yeah,
You don't want to
I
jump into
agree.
this quagmire
Let's
with
talk
a
to
motion
Noel.
and all kinds of new rules with 2 weeks to go in school.
So, yeah.
Okay, then we'll move on. 2021 MHS graduation. I did not put this one on the agenda, so.
I did. So when a notice went out to parents in regards to 4 tickets per family, you know, I had parents crying, I had parents concerned because last year's graduation was downsized dramatically because of the pandemic running a rear. So my concern is, and I think Jim is here, and, you know, I know at the last board meeting, we brought it back to MHS, and I had asked, and I think the full board did, that we make every effort possible to make sure that we have additional seating, additional options. Now, yes, I do know that weather is a concern, but I would like to make sure that we are taking every action possible, bring in more bleachers, bring in more abilities, so, you know, God be with us that we have a sunny day on graduation day, and we can hold it out on the artificial turf, and everybody that wants to attend has the ability to attend for their son, their daughter, their grandson, their granddaughter, and I just want to make sure that we're taking every effort to make sure that is possible.
So, I agree with that, and I don't know if we can have them come back on Monday with whatever recommendation of capacity. I mean, because it should be a whole lot more, if possible.
Yeah, I don't see why
But
we can't.
I mean, there is,
You know, if you
a
need money,
capacity.
ask us. We'll get money for more bleachers. You know, I
Let's
just want to
just
make
find
sure.
out
Yeah, I just
on
want to make
Monday.
sure we're doing everything possible for this class graduating in 3 weeks, that it's an amazing graduation.
Just to be clear, if every graduate gets 4 tickets, that's what we're doing it because if it does lightning or thunderstorm or tornado,
well, that's it.
and we come back in the gym,
Right.
we
That's-
can handle four tickets per student.
Correct. And parents just
But
need-
any more than that, what do we do with the? How do you
Well,
take
if-
those away once the weather hits?
loved ones are going to have to know that in the event of inclement weather, we will have to hold tight to our capacity. We have
Right.
fire code and everything. We can't put 10,000 people in here. It's just not possible. But they'll have to understand that we'll make every effort to hold it outside, but in the event that we can't, Plan B will restrict tickets.
is Miller Park out of the question?
Yeah,
Jim, is
So-
Miller Park out of the question since the city of Milwaukee is lifting all their restrictions June 1st?
yeah, but
So I think it was last week that I received a text from a board member asking after American Family Field and the Brewers had decided that they could increase capacity. I talked to Jim and the high school administration, and they had already made arrangements
Okay.
for the outdoor ceremony, for sound, for chairs, and for live streaming.
Okay.
So at that point, I thought that it was best to move forward with the outdoors.
Things have changed.
But
Does making arrangements mean we can't change it again?
say again, please.
Things have changed. It made sense then because that was the way that things were. So we changed it from Miller Park to that. We still have 3 weeks. Just because we made plans, does that mean they
If
can't be
money has
changed?
been put down and contracts have been
Yeah,
signed,
contract's
then
been
yes.
committed.
So
there
I
are
think
contracts,
what's maybe important right now to remind the board is the level of governance that a school board has is over large-scale, big-picture policy-making procedures. We do not get into the day-to-day, into the weeds and the micromanaging of our staff and our administration. That's why we have them. That's why we pay them. That is why we hire them. Our big policy that we voted on, the change and the guidance or the recommendation and the information Jim brought to us was that, hey, you guys need to make a call on this. This is what's happening at Miller Park. The options are Miller Park, or we could bring it back here. And it was a pretty unanimous decision, large-scale, high-level decision from this board to move it back from the high school. That is where our feedback, quite frankly, ends.
Well, and
Because the day-to-day work then is now, it's given right to Jim and to his people. It's on him. If we have questions, we reach out to Jim and we ask for additional information. I don't think we put these things on these agendas to try to make a change without that discussion and that dialogue happening. We make large policy decisions. Let's not get in the weeds. I believe this is getting in the weeds.
Erica, I wasn't asking for a change. I was just asking for additional information. Because
Which we can,
parents came to us, they came to me, and they are our voting constituents, and I promised them that I would ask.
absolutely, that's great. My comments are in reference to well, is it too late? Why can't we go back to Miller Park? We made our decision, and we've moved forward with it. Now, I would like to shift, unless anybody else has something to say about graduation.
I kind of do.
Okay. Well, you get claps just for talking.
I know. I got a fan club over there. The reason I asked for a change is because circumstances have changed, and it matters to people. We're getting the emails. People are pissed. They're crying. I mean, all this stuff is happening. Circumstances change. It's just a question. Jim, can we switch it? Have we put money down? I mean, can we know by Monday what the feasibility is to do this? We made a change once. Can we make it again? Does it make sense? I mean, I'm sure most of the people will understand if we invested whatever $50,000 into something, and that's normally what it costs. We don't want to break the bank to do it again and make a whole bunch of changes. But if we invested $50 on down payments and it's just making a few phone calls, you're right. We do have a staff, and they can change it because that's what they pay for. So we have signed contracts. Okay.
The 26th.
That's a good point, Jim.
And that sucks. But the one thing I've noticed in business is everything is changing. I can't get shingles. Customers get this. Customers get that. There's nonstop changing in the real world because there's nonstop policy changing. So, I mean, I think we owe it to the people to at least find out if it makes sense, if it's possible.
Yep.
That's true.
3 o'clock.
Just as many complaints on the other side?
Yep.
It's very,
No, we made a decision as a board to have it here, and I understand that, but if there's an option, great.
Okay, can I actually ask a question now? So when we get closer, if the weather seems nicer, because I have had an extreme amount of complaints about the 4, and we find out, okay, we're good with the weather, it's going to be outside. Is there a way to email the parents of the seniors and say, it's okay, print out, or I don't know, print 2 tickets out, these 2, bring them, we're going to be outside? That's what I was saying, just 2 more tickets per family if we're outside.
6 outdoor, 4 indoor.
Right, we're inside. I mean, once we get closer to the date, I mean, we're a couple, hey, we're going to be outside. It's going to be nice. Print out 2 tickets. Here you go. I'm sure we have a way to do it. Right. These 2 are go to the. Yes. Thank you.
I think that's a great idea.
That's okay.
Thank you, Jim.
Great
That was the
solutions.
biggest concern.
Thanks, Jim.
Thank you, Jim.
Thank you. I'd like to head back, Mary, to the motion that you had mentioned about zero tolerance
Yes.
bullying. Were you going to make a motion to the full board to vote on that policy change, or do you want to make a separate motion?
I think it should go to next month's
Next-
or next Monday's
to the
meeting
agenda
because it's not
for
really
next Monday, 'cause it's
technically
not-
on here.
Yes.
And it does need to, I think the policy, I read the policy, it doesn't specifically state for clothing or masks or something, so we need to make an adjustment.
Okay. So
That would
you-
need to, that'd be, make the motion to the full board to look to, adjust the harassment policy
I'll second that.
regarding masks.
So you want us to bring the policy to Monday night's meeting, correct?
To the board to make changes.
I got you. Yep.
Yeah, so I have a motion with Mary, a second from Andy. Any other questions or discussion on that? Okay, all those in favor say aye.
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 Those opposed? Okay. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Okay. Thank you all for coming.